Welcome to Pod Strangely Warmed. I'm your host, Daniel Hawkins, and today we continue in our getting ready for the start of school, immersing ourselves into the world of campus ministry. It has been a fascinating conversation over the last couple of weeks, and it will continue to be a fascinating conversation today because I am joined by two of the most amazing humans that I have come to know over time and two amazing campus ministry directors. David McMinn, you are the executive director at the Texas Wesley Foundation.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. Almost as preposterous as a master of divinity.
Well, fair. But Marcus, just me and you talking, we can say this here. Is anybody surprised that at the Texas Wesley Foundation they have an executive director rather than just a director of the Wesley Foundation? I mean, it is UT after all.
It is,
right?
It is. No surprise.
No surprise. Marcus Jones is also here. He is the director or executive director?
It's also executive.
Okay. It must be a UT system thing.
But it's also a title I absolutely loathe. I don't like it at all.
David came in here strutting, so we're going to give him a little harassment here. Marcus is at the UTA Wesley Foundation right here in our own backyard in Arlington, and one of the hallmarks of our annual conference. And so one of the things that you need to know is that David is the guy who helps me run a Preacher's Fantasy Football League.
It's true.
Neither he or I ever are able to win, but we keep the thing going. Yeah. And so it's fun.
Maybe Marcus needs to jump in this year.
Maybe Marcus does need to jump in this year.
Well, I'll let you know. Every Preacher's Fantasy Football I've been a part of, I've either won it or was lost in the championship. So I don't know.
Okay, well, come on. We've got some of those preachers who show up to the draft and do nothing else.
Yes.
And they need to be replaced by people who are paying attention. And so
I think Jason Valenti always wants to quit.
He always, and yet his competitive streak kicks in.
You're right.
And he's always
jumping
in. There's no surprise there. And we need to dethrone Nick Scott.
Yes.
He won last year and made sure that we did not forget it at any point during this time.
And I think his donation always goes to the TCU Wesley.
It does. It's our campus ministry tie-in.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it's a $20 buy-in for the Fantasy Football League, and whoever wins gets to decide where that money is donated.
Count me in.
That's fantastic. It'll all be good. Marcus is the preacher with sneakers who is unironic in his preachers with sneakers, and also not one of those kind of folks who are like really, come on now. But what I loved this last spring, you did 40 days of
Air Force Ones.
It
was the 40th anniversary of that silhouette, and so a couple of my buddies did it first.
Okay,
and then me being in this world of preaching and having this hashtag Preachers with Sneakers, I said I'll jump in. It's my favorite silhouette of all shoes. So the Nike Air Force One is probably the most I have in my collection, and so it was a fun thing to do.
How big is the collection?
I don't want to incriminate myself.
Okay, plead the fifth.
But it's large, but it dwindles. I give away a lot of shoes, I recently just gave away 3 when I was in Costa Rica, and so because it's both a passion and a ministry for me, personal ministry for me. So, but there's a lot. Just to say, I can wear a different pair of shoe every day, every month of the year, every week of the year. Yeah.
Those numbers keep getting larger.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to say every day, but it's not like that
not
anymore.
Quite that much.
It used to be.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot and about a lot of things, but nothing about campus ministry. Yeah. David, if you want to get us started, give us a little sense of what life is like at the Texas Wesley Foundation and how long you've been there and what.
Yeah. So I started in the perfect time to start a new job. July of 2020. So,
perfect.
Yes. So that was a great time. And our first year was entirely remote. UT did not allow, and I think it was the same at UTA. You were at Midwestern at the time.
I was at Midwestern.
But UT did not allow a single, if you were a student or you were not allowed to meet in person.
Okay.
And so there were a few opportunities. Bethany, United Methodist Church. So UT is actually in the Rio, Texas annual conference, and Bethany's a great church down there, and they had an outdoor worship. So some of the only times that we got to meet together was at those. And then right before we went on retreat, we borrowed the parking lot from the Scientologist and had an outdoor worship, and it was amazing. And then what's really cool is this is where I met Marcus. Marcus was at Midwestern State at the time, and we were doing a retreat, and one of our connections is a soon-to-be pastor, Anna Shipley,
Yep.
the executive director of the Rio, Texas Annual Conference, or Rio, Texas Army, and I think they had a previous connection. Yeah. And so I invited Marcus to come and be our speaker, and then I was like, hey, bring your group. And so Marcus brought about 12 students. We had this huge group of people. My students were nervous because they're like, I don't know how to talk to people because I haven't been in person with people for an entire year.
Fair, yeah.
And we had the crappiest cabins you've ever seen, like dirty.
Not at Glen Lake.
Not at Glen Lake.
Just as a conference reminder and disclaimer here.
I won't call out the camp because it's a great camp, but these were like rustic cabins, and it was bad. But we had an incredible.
No COVID, might get tetanus.
Right. Well, we all tested beforehand, and it was before what was that Delta? No, Omicron. That was like it didn't matter if you were testing. And we just had the greatest. It was like one of the most incredible ministry experiences. Because our groups came together.
Yeah, no, it really was. It was cold too. In April, we thought it was going to be warm. I told all my students, I say, "Oh, we're going to be in the camp. You know, you don't need to bring a whole lot.
It'll be fine."
Oh, it was not fine. Not at all. I mean,
how long did it take to build trust back?
It was hot during the day and then cold at night, which was really weird.
Yeah.
So, and then we had these like screened-in cabins that we rolled all the things up so that we weren't melting.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then at night we froze.
Yeah. It was frigid.
Wild.
So what they learned is they could trust Marcus about Jesus, but not the weather.
Not the weather.
Okay. Marcus, give me a little window into. We talked about you were at Midwestern State. You're now at University of Texas at Arlington. Yeah. How long have you been there? What's ministry look like there day by day?
Just completed a year and a quarter.
Oh, nice.
I got to the UTA in April of 2022. Okay. So there was a little bit of overlap between myself and Thomas, the previous director. But I was at Midwestern State for 5 years prior to that. And it's been great since I've been here. It was a unique opportunity because Midwestern State is in the North Texas Conference annual conference. And it's a gem of a school because it's in Wichita Falls. And you would think that a town of Wichita Falls with a university like this would not be as diverse as the campus was. And so we're talking about 6,000 student school with, 50% of the student population is non-white.
Okay.
And so that's incredible for a school with the PWI designation. PWI means predominantly white institution. And so you have this incredibly diverse school in this very small, non-diverse town.
Okay.
And we were able to do some dynamic ministry, but it was almost as a prequel to what I'm going to be able to do at UT, because UTA is the 5th most diverse campus in all of the country.
Wow. Okay.
I believe it.
And so it was, I learned a lot there to prepare me for what we're going to do here. And so I'm excited to be here.
What does ministry look like in a kind of week-by-week format for you guys?
Well, I mean, I think you would say there's no week-by-week format. Every week is different. Every week is unique. You have certain things. So you have a night where you have worship. Yeah. A lot of times you have a Bible study at different times. But then and every campus ministry is different. You have the students drive a lot because we put them in leadership and we tell them, like, this is your ministry. And so they drive a lot of the programming on their passions, what they're interested in. We have one of our groups is called God's Office Hours, and we talk about the philosophical and theological questions that a lot of times people aren't willing to talk about in churches, and everything from political things like abortion to theological things like how do we handle LGBTQ inclusion in the church. And it's a really great opportunity. And I would almost say at the college campus you have to be having some sort of opportunity to have those conversations, or people are not going to be interested. But yeah, every week is different. Some weeks you got to retreat. Some weeks you're doing this, and every day is different because it's who's available. You're meeting for coffee, for lunch. Yeah, I'm sure it's the same for you too.
Oh no, absolutely. Like you said, you have your staple communities. We call them communities instead of programs because you can't do. We do programs, but you can't do programs because we're human beings. So we do community. So we have our weekly communities. Which are pretty standard, but to David's point, every day is different. Okay. We created a space in our at the Wesley called the Safe Space, and it was intentional because to David's point, you have students who are wrestling with LGBTQ plus issues, identities rather. You have mental health issues. And so we wanted to create a space where if you just need to go in there and scream, yell, cry,
That's a great idea.
whatever the case may be, there's a space for that. And that room alone creates a new experience because, you don't know what students are going through.
There's no programming that room.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And even myself, I may need to go into the safe space to process, my own day, or I had a tough engagement with a student. I need to go in here and decompress. And so you never know. And then because so much of our communities are student-led, student leaders, they drive everything.
Yep.
Whether it's our engagement on campus, from tabling to outreach.
And tabling is like when you're sitting behind a table. And, you're sitting behind a table handing out swag to meet people.
Potential students.
I figured people mean to what tabling is.
Is Jesus tossing these tables over or showing up? No.
Hey, sometimes.
Interesting enough, there was this one experience we were tabling out on campus, and obviously there are hundreds of Christian orgs or ministries out. And we were just offering lemonade one day. No pretense.
Yeah.
Just come get some lemonade. Yeah. We just want to get to know you. And one individual said, I think this is the most Jesus table I've walked in.
Exactly.
And so you do get those opportunities to really engage with the campus in those ways. But all that's student-led. Okay. I think that's a perfect segue for me to say to anyone who's listening, when students leave our campus ministries, they're already equipped to lead.
That's right.
I think the misnomer is that when students leave campus ministry, they need to be rediscipled or retrained, or they're not ready because of their age. But most of these students have been with us for 3-4 years and have led in some capacity, whether it's a Bible study, whether it's direct leadership and planning an event or a retreat. And so the disheartening reality is that when young people leave our campus ministry and they go back to church, they're ready to get engaged in the same ways they were in campus ministry. But the gatekeepers are like, go sit down over there.
Right. You got to do your time.
We'll call you in 20 years when you got gray in your hair and in your beard and then,
And I do think that's a big disconnect is they have this intimate community and they want to be in a small group, be in a community, and they want to help lead your church. They want to help. They don't just want to come and be a pew sitter. They want to help lead the church in its mission. And that's what we hope to accomplish is to introduce them to churches that are willing to say, hey, come and be a part of what we're doing. And, you have great skills in leadership.
Well, and I think that's fascinating because one of the conversations that's been happening across the annual conference for the last year and a half, ever since we've gotten Bishop Signs, right, has been how can we be good ancestors for those who come after us, right? And some of that work is what you guys are doing day by day, cultivating leadership development, equipping people, right? I've quoted Howard Thurman a lot because the folks at Mission Incubators, right, Ministry Incubators, quote, giving people a crown to grow into, right? Y'all are doing that work.
Right.
As somebody who sits in the church and leads the church on a regular basis, right? And most of our folks who are listening to this are good old church people, right? Part of our job in terms of being good ancestors may be finding moments where we let go, right? Rather than holding on tight, letting go and saying, we trust. And we're going to continue to be a part of what you guys have already been doing to create space to let that leadership thrive and find its way.
And that's what we do. And sometimes it's scary. Sometimes you end up with a mechanical bull in your space and a bounce house in your sanctuary and you break a $1,100 light, But it's an incubator and it's that opportunity for them to try new things. And it's great for the local church to be in a relationship with Wesley's because you can kind of come alongside us. You can try new things with us. You can see the things that work and the things that don't work. And the reality is we all need each other. Young people need people who are older, who have been through the world to guide them, even if they don't really think they do. But I can tell you most college students want relationships with people, with families, because they're out in this new world for them, away from home, a lot of them for the first time. And they want that normalcy, and they want that community of having people who have been around and been through some of those things to guide them through it. And then when they leave college, they're doing it again. And now they need those same folks to wrap their arms around them and give them community while they find those friends, those relationships, those spiritual friends.
Now that's a good point. Like with every church that I go to, when I get an opportunity to speak about the connection, the collaboration that's needed between campus ministries and churches, I'm always drawn to Acts 2 when Peter gets up and they think they're drunk because they probably think college students are drunk because that's college. But Peter says, no, they're not drunk. This is what's going on. The Spirit of the Lord is upon them in such a way. Yeah. What Joel said, that when the Spirit comes, it's going to fall on elders and young people.
That's right.
And you need elders and young people in order to do this work.
And everything in between.
Right, absolutely. And so I think the missing piece is that we think like when the Spirit comes, the Spirit is only going to equip those who are older or those who have been in church a long time. But no, that's not what the scriptures say. It says that when the Spirit comes, and I think we are in a revival of sorts. We're all post-pandemic seeking what the church is supposed to do next. And while we're equipping these leaders, they want to be in relationship with the church. They want to be in relationship with the elders because there's something that the elders have to offer them. And likewise, there's something that the young people have to offer to them.
There's speaking and listening, right?
Absolutely.
Well, and as you guys talk about this, I'm wondering and want to push you guys to dive a little deeper into, you named, we need each other, right? The local church needs campus ministry and campus ministry needs the local church. This is a collaborative partnership at its best when it's thriving, right?
Right.
What does that look like day by day? We've hit some of the spirit things, right? Have a heart ready to receive our students as we send them forth, right? As y'all let go, right? Their parents first let go and hand them to you, and then you let go and give them to the world, right? But what does it look like day by day for that partnership to look like, right? And we've jokingly had folks already say on the podcast, college ministries are like college students. We just need money and food and we'll be good.
But we want more than that.
But you want more than that, right?
Yeah, no,
and I got a sense from y'all that there is something deeper in that partnership that you are searching for. So what would that look like, or what does that look like at its best?
Well, one of the things that we're creating at UTA right now is a student leadership internship program. And essentially what it's designed to do is to take our students and partner them with individuals in the church who are in professions where they desire to go into kind of create some type of mentorship program, process or relationship where an older person who's probably either retired or at the end of their career has an opportunity to kind of pour back into someone who's at the beginning of their career. And what this does is also creates the conversation of, well, you've been in your career, but why have you been in the church? Why have you continued to serve? Which, because I think for years, most of our campus ministries have been seen as ministry incubators, where the only type of people we cultivate are pastors and clergy. Which is not true, because the majority of the individuals who leave our campus ministry are not. They're going to be lay people. They're going to be laity and with a desire to serve and lead. And so finding ways to connect the young lady with the elder laity of our churches is another way to kind of say, all right, it's not just about you giving us money and pizza. Here's a way where you can lend your time to spend with these young people who are in the discerning process about what their life looks like.
That's fantastic. And I think for your young people, y'all have named so many times, right, the power of seeing you. We just want to know you. We want to be a part of your life. We want to be invested in you, right? And that investment's not just in your faith journey; it's a holistic investment. And we want to partner you with a mentor, right? And that's fantastic.
So much of what we do is helping young people grow up. I mean, they even jokingly call it adulting, and that and sometimes they'll even hesitate to call themselves adults. I try to not use kid language. I want to call them adults because I want them to be adults.
Absolutely.
But they're not always ready for that. And so we need that. They need those practical skills. And I would say just Marcus nailed it, and he's doing incredible things up at UTA. We really have to be honest we got to put our money where our mouth is too. In that we need, I get that investing in young people financially doesn't always seem like a good investment. However, if we look at the long term, just even from a financial standpoint, get people when they're young, they're going to be part of the church for the whole life cycle. Not to mention the passion they're going to bring to churches, the work, because each person has a call.
Yeah.
And so by being a part of these Wesleys, and not just financially, supporting them with food, the meal is huge. It saves us from having to purchase that because college ministries, the backbone of college ministry is food.
Yeah.
And there is food insecurity at college campuses because college campus is so expensive.
Yeah.
But it's showing up and it's saying, yeah, we do care about you. But part of that is financial. And I know when we're going through these like denominational insecurity of what's next, it's really easy to say, well, we don't know how that's helping the church. Maybe we need to pull back on that. And we're seeing a lot of conferences do that. But we need to be doubling down on young people ministry. Or there's not going to be a church in 10, 20, 30 years, you know? And so I really want to see all of that in our partnership. And then we bring to the table, like I said, that energy. We bring knowledge. I think that I want to see local churches investing in college-age students where they are. Because most college-age people are not at these big universities. They're at community colleges. They're in the workforce. And so we can help you figure out how to reach those folks. And bring that energy to your church. Because really, like the campuses that are 5 to 10 miles away from a campus, those are the ones that are going to have like the day-to-day. But I don't care where you are. I can help you. And you can help me. And so it's just thinking about like, what are those connections? How do we do that together? And really, truly believe in this connection of who we are as Methodist. And that's what I want to see.
Well, because even in those environments where, you know, summer, I mean, I know y'all guys don't really have downtime, but summer is less programmed, right? And you're spending more time in churches, helping tell the story, helping raise some money and things. But summer is the time when many of the college-age young adults from our churches end up back home, right? It's the time where they have come home. And I can't tell you, I have, you know, last summer we had a decent cohort come back to church, and I wanted to do something, but I'm sitting going, I don't have a clue, right? You know, if you're pushing 40, I got you, man. If you're pushing 80, I got you, right? But if you're 19, that's not my strength. That's not my wheelhouse, right? But at the same time, you guys are in it day to day, right? And
we'd be happy to help.
Right. And the resource, I mean, I know I am like a wholly different person than I was when we began recording these with our campus ministry in terms of understanding spiritually, right? I felt like I had a pretty decent understanding academically what's going on in the lives of our young people and kind of relationally, right? Hey, congratulations, you are an adult whether you like it or not, right?
Yes, exactly.
And the relationship decisions you make, the life choices you make are going to have lasting impacts on you because you're an adult now, right? But the spiritual pieces, right, and the discipleship pieces and the willingness and deep desire just to have community where you can ask whatever question you've got.
That's right.
Where you can, you know, raise and not feel like you're going to be judged for it, not feel like you're going to be condemned for it, not feel like, you know, no, here's your box, fit in your box, this is where you belong, right? And to be seen and honored where you're at, trusting that God's not going to leave you in that place. Like, I get that in a wholly different way than I got it when we began recording these, right? And so I'm so thankful I've been able to sit and learn just in this minute. But what sort of resourcing is possible, right? When we think about our churches that are receiving our college-age young adults back home, that's a powerful thing, and I think a part of the partnership that a lot of churches don't really consider.
I think the first, I often say that I think the greatest chasm in our church is between college-age young people and post-career individuals. I'm trying to say that softly and nice. But
I mean, there's even the colloquial joke about calling people boomers, you know, of like who doesn't, and that's not a very nice thing to say. And but it shows you that divide is there between those generations.
Big time. And I think older individuals have no problem playing with their grandchildren.
Right.
None. Well, go get their grandchildren. Grandchildren can stay the whole summer if they want. No problem at all. You can go get your high school or older young person, pre-college individual, and that's still not too much of a disconnect. But it just seems like the moment a kid or a young person becomes 18 with the ability to speak for themselves, think for themselves, engage in own, it's like, oh, wait a minute. How do I engage that individual?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times it's because we continue to lump them into the categories of young. But if I'm not mistaken, they become a member of the United Methodist Church at confirmation.
Preach, Marcus.
And the moment they graduate high school, they become an adult.
Yeah.
Like a tithe-paying adult.
Right.
Whether they make a lot of money or not. They become they become eligible for all of the same rights and privileges as every other adult
and responsibilities.
Yeah, and so I think that is the first wall you got to break down. Is that when they come back, don't go say we need a young adult group.
Don't make them volunteer with a youth group. Or
don't go send them.
Some of them,
because many of them don't want to do that anyway.
Right.
And you really don't want your 19 to 22-year-old leading youth group.
Do not
preach. I was a really bad 19-year-old youth director. Preach.
Yes. Because I'll be honest, we get calls all the time.
We just tell people no.
We need a youth pastor. We need and I'm like, I'm gonna be honest. Do you want the 19-year-old, 20-year-old that I'm discipling, to disciple your young people? Now, don't get it twisted. We talked about Anna earlier. There are some individuals who are incredibly mature, and their trajectory is ministry,
right?
Yeah. But the majority are not.
No.
Yeah.
And yes, they will take your $1,000 a month or whatever you're offering, but that's not what they want.
They make great interns.
Yeah,
and but again, it's
absolutely
that walking with them. And if you're hiring a 19-year-old to do ministry in the church, you got to realize you're probably not getting any time back.
Yeah.
In fact, you're probably going to be committing more time, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it.
Because they're gonna help your church become more knowledgeable about the language that young people are speaking, about the things that they're really interested in. And to your point about internships, there are so many other things the church needs other than putting people in children and youth ministry.
Put a 19-year-old in charge of your social media.
Right. Well, and so one of the conversations we had the other day was with Marianne Browntrick, right? And she has completely changed at the Denton Wesley Foundation the way they organize their Wesley Foundation internships to where it's student driven, where she's like, all right, here are the deep needs of the ministry. Where are your deep passions and where's their intersection?
Line them up. Yep.
And so she had an emergency management planning intern, right? Like their intern the entire year was to craft and organize the emergency management plan for the Wesley Foundation. How many churches would really need an emergency management plan, right? That we just don't have a good way of doing. And like that young person is ready to come in at 23 and be an incredibly valued member of your board of trustees, right? They are equipped, they are empowered. Yeah. But we often see, you're 23 in the church. Can you play guitar?
Yep.
Yeah,
no?
play guitar. Can you hang out with youth? Can you? You want to go in the children?
Not, hey,
skill positions.
Yeah, you've spent years wrestling with these real issues.
Yeah. Can you be on the trustees? Can you be on finance?
Yeah.
And not just as the token young person who we don't actually expect to speak.
Well,
right.
And I get the fear. You were talking about a little concern. You had all these young people come back, and there's some fear. I think back to when I was at First Colleen.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of discipleship, and I'd never done that before. And was supposed to do small groups. And that was a fear because I'd never done it before. And actually, one of the lay people in that church, his first name was Gary. I can't remember his last name right now. Showed me how to do it. And after that, I knew how to do small groups. And I think that's a lot of what I'm talking about too, is like ministry to young people is not that difficult. If you have a couple in your church that is just really loving and humble and not going to just like try to shove things down their throat, who are willing to invite them over to their house. At Rockbridge, we had a family who did college ministry for 20 years, and that's all they did. They just invited them over to their house, they fed them, and they talked about God. And it can be that simple. And so I think that's where I go back. I get the fear, and I think that's why a lot of churches are don't know what the first steps are. And that's where we want to come in and help y'all. Yeah. Or, I mean, maybe I shouldn't speak from our place, but that's where we want to come in and help you. We can't do it for you, but we can teach you. Yeah. We can kind of work with you. We can work with your leaders to help them.
Help them begin to ideate around, practical things.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think a lot of it is thinking too deeply about how to connect.
We make it too hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, if you love to cook a brisket and invite the college students over and say, we're going to talk about Jesus and barbecue because both are holy and good and wonderful. And
it's through conversation that you determine that you begin to determine that young people have gifts and graces that go throughout the church and not just in the skill positions, as I like to call them.
Right. You got some offensive linemen in there. You got
absolutely. You got some people who are willing to push. Case in point, I think y'all heard her say it at annual conference this year. Brenda Rhodes, she came into our ministry. She served in this one capacity, but she had this unique gift of de-escalating issues, even in our conversations. Well, she just recently got a degree in conflict resolution.
How cool is that?
Because. But if I had not been thinking, this is pastor's daughter, She's been in ministry her whole life. I could have tried to fast track her through ministry. But no, sitting and listening. Oh, what are you really interested in? And then you'll say, oh, we need that at our church. Yeah. And then you'll see that they've been waiting to share that this whole time.
Yeah.
One thing I've been reminded is that I think that people value a relationship with a pastor. And I know that's obvious, but I think in our society we have maybe devalued ourselves some, and we don't realize that people want that relationship, and young people especially, because they're in a world of turmoil. Everything has been flipped upside down. Change is crazy in their lifetime, from 9/11 to COVID, basically in their lives. And just think about everything in between, and they want relationships with pastors. That's another thing. There's nothing wrong with the pastor. If you're, building some relationship with some young people in your church and inviting them over to your house and cooking a brisket, if that's your thing, because they want that relationship. And it's such a cool thing. And you have everything you need to be in relationships with young people. And you also have wise people in your church. And so go back to knowing that that's been something of a revelation, maybe a bit of a change from when I was at Tarleton at UT, is one of my students even said to me, David, we want a pastor. We want that. That's the relationship. That's the role we need you to be in. And of course I was, but it almost needed to be said to me to realize it and how much they value when they're going through. When
you're not their next buddy. You're not their.
They don't need that.
You're not the pizza guy.
They got interns for that. They got each other, and there's some that want to hang out. But they want, when they're going through it, when they're going through those mental health struggles, when they're dealing with parents who don't get them, they need a pastor. And the same thing as local church. Those young people still need a pastor.
Somebody look them in the eye and say, "You matter
to
me, and you matter to God."
Tell me about your life. That's it. That's it.
Yeah. I have loved this conversation because it's kind of really, we're connectional people, right? We're Wesleyan to the core, and that means we're in it with each other, right? And you've helped guide us in what that continues to look like in this specific space. Also note that you two in this room at the same time talking about connectionalism is fantastic and amazing, right? Because David, you are Central Texas clergy who is no longer appointed in Central Texas Conference, in the Rio Texas Conference. Marcus, you served both North Texas and Central Texas, and but campus ministry, it happens that way, right? It's one of those things. I heard a church musician say one time, we are mercenaries. We go where the jobs are, right? But campus ministry can function that way, right? If you've got a call and you've got a gift in that kind of way, it expands that connectionality, right? And I know last week, both of y'all were at Duke with...
What a campus, by the way. Had you ever been to Duke before?
That was my first time.
Golly. Have you been to Duke?
I have not. It's on my D-Min 3 or 4 list of places to potentially do the doctorate at, but
good place.
Okay,
good choice. Good choice. They have a cathedral on campus.
Well, okay,
they call it a chapel,
but it's a cathedral.
It's a cathedral.
It's and the Duke brothers are buried there. Apparently.
They have a crypt at the bottom with multiple people, influential people of the Duke families. That are buried right in the bottom of the. I mean, it's amazing facility. I mean, I
loved all the green space. A lot of college campuses are getting rid of their green spaces. They got to build more buildings to have more people. They just have these huge amounts of green spaces all over campus, and I was like, man, that's what we need to value, because there's something about being in the grass when you're a college student, especially at my campus, and I think yours too, right?
Oh yeah, big
probably
time.
More at yours.
Oh yeah, we're just a city university for the most part.
There's no grass at UTA.
It's all somewhere.
There's a patch here and a patch there.
But I think the amazing part of last week was, UMCMA, United Methodist Campus Ministry Association, is an organization specifically for campus ministries to equip and advocate for campus ministry across the connection. And the interesting thing about UMCMA is that really we just serve as an organization to ensure that there's somebody speaking up for campus ministry all the time. I hate to go doom here, but a part of the reason why we do the summer institutes and why they're so important is because not every campus ministry has a conference support like ours. I think we are incredibly blessed.
Other Central Texas is probably the high end.
The North Texas area. So not North Texas, but the North Texas area. We're incredibly blessed to have such forward-thinking cabinets related to campus ministries. But when we get to these places, it's another time for us to love on our other colleagues in campus ministries because they're coming in trying to figure out how they're going to provide pizza.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
It's one thing to figure out how to hire an intern or, how you're going to staff your ministry, but it's another thing to figure out like how I'm going to feed these students who I'm trying to attract into this ministry. And so UMCMA, the week was just full of worship, plenary sessions, workshops from people all over, individuals like the Vinery, which is an organization that speaks their programming is specific to create collaboration between campus ministry and churches.
Okay.
And they give funding to make those collaborations happen. Board training and fundraising ideas, all the things that help us be better equipped.
And some incredible speakers. One of them, Mark's his not brother, but his brother, as he said.
I got to invite some of my friends that I've met along the journey.
Yeah.
Every one of our speakers this year was connected to campus ministry in some way, from chaplain to board members. My friend Michael, who preached, he is the board
He brought
chair
the heat.
of the Howard Wesley at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And two of the schools were Methodist affiliated, so Wiley College and Marshall and Bethune-Cookman in Florida. And so it was just an opportunity for us to pour into one another. We bring seminaries, so there's always opportunity for seminaries to come and show us that they have money for us who want to be in theological education, but also other auxiliaries that just connect us to campus ministry. It was an amazing week. I think there were 90 of us.
They kept getting registrations right at the end.
All the way through.
People, and it's just showing you how much people are needing connection with other people. And it is, we've built a relationship, and in Texas, we cross our borders. That's one reason that I tend to still get invited to I make myself get invited because there's not as many campus ministries down where I'm at. And but one of the most important things for me there was the last night I went to dinner, and there was the campus ministry from Penn State and Oklahoma State. And there's something to, I think, being at a university like University of Texas and Penn State and Oklahoma State, that there's a bit of different culture being at some of those universities, and to be able to connect with other really large school universities and what they're doing in campus ministry and the things that even though we were in three very different regions, we had a lot of connectionality where I'm not gonna have the same experience as someone who's at like a private Methodist college. It's gonna be a very different experience than at University of Texas in Austin. And so that was really meaningful to be able to go to dinner and just the three of us just talk about our ministries and what's going on.
Yeah, that was something that I learned as well, especially even transitioning from Midwestern State, 6,000 student school, to UTA, 47,000 students.
You're going to pass UT Austin soon.
And so it was a culture shock for me. And if I had not had this, cohort of campus pastors to say, all right, who's at a large school now? I almost similar to you as a pastor. If you go from a smaller church to a larger church, you build those. You probably need another type of a mentor to help you operate in this space, and so it really is a great connection. Which is, I have to say this because we are clergy too.
Sure.
Oftentimes we feel lesser than. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, when you become a real pastor, or when you get a real church, like these young people that we pastor aren't doing the exact same things as in a local church.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was asked to take a church, a local church, and my call is to campus ministry,
Likewise.
And it's hard sometimes to get people to understand that and to value it because they don't, it's just hard to understand why someone would choose to be a pastor to 40 or 50 people instead of, how many ever in a church. Well, because we get to have that time and those conversations. Some of our most impactful relationships for me, and I'm sure Marcus is too, are the ones who are the nuns and duns, who don't have faith or walked away from the church because of church hurt. Yeah. And I have one student that I've been walking with for 3 years, and just yesterday had a conversation that was maybe a slight breakthrough. Yeah. But that one conversation, that one relationship, that one time means so much. Not that the other ones don't. Of course, they all do. But I've been working 3 years on that one relationship that I've invested, I can't tell you how many hours into. And just for a small step to be taken. And then just my heart to be like so incredibly, strangely warmed.
Yeah. Right.
because you're starting to see that light bulb.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. And so I very much appreciate what local church pastors are called to. That's not our calling.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to speak on behalf of us preachers who sometimes stick our foot in our mouths. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
It is an incredible gift to the connection. It's an incredible gift to God's people. And you are having real faith-forming conversations with young people who are and will continue to be the next generation of the people called Methodist. Yeah. And so thank you for what you're doing. It is a powerful and worthy call. And thank you for joining us today on Pod Strangely Warmed. If this conversation has been good to your spirit, I encourage you to stay connected. We drop a new episode each and every week, either on Facebook, YouTube, or on all the places where you can find podcasts. If you want to know more about the Texas Wesley Foundation or the UTA Wesley Foundation, they've got social media channels in all the places. No word if you're on Threads yet.
I am.
No.
Just personally.
But find a way to get connected, to stay connected, and support the ongoing work of Jesus Christ that is happening on our college campuses through amazing folks like Marcus and David. Thanks again for joining us today. And until next time, I'm Daniel Hawkins, and this is Pod Strangely Warmed.